interwebs, and welcome to the Frak This podcast. I am your blaspheming host, Jesse Gender, and I am joined as always by...
It's Vera. I'm trying to remember how to spell blaspheming. I think I got it right.
B-L-A-S-H-P...
It's P-H.
P-H?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is P-H. I have the word blasphemy written in front of me, but blaspheming, I don't have.
Oh, whatever. I'll figure it out.
You're on your own. Spelling tests were the one thing in high school, in middle school that I failed consistently. Like, okay, just to give you the things. Like, I was my valedictorian of my school, but that my 6th and 7th grade teacher did spelling tests for the English class. I got in my grades for that, like those 2 years were like high 80s. But then when I went into high school, it went from spelling tests to vocabulary. So you had to define the words, not spell them. Hundreds on all of those, every single time.
Yeah, like I never did great on spelling tests, but it's because I suck at memorization most of the time. Like,
also, spell check ruined my generation. So,
well, like, that wasn't my issue. My issue was just flat out like, I remember how to use these words, and I remember the rules of spelling based off sounds, but English fucks with those so much anyway that doesn't help you.
Yes.
You have to just rotely memorize how to spell this shit, and I suck at that.
I agree. Yeah. So, anyways, now that we've reminisced about spell check, or spelling, how are you doing, Vera?
I'm doing fine, except some bitch casually spoiled part of Severance Season 2 in her fucking video that she used my voice on.
Oh, did I?
Yes!
Oh, for like 2 seconds. It's not a big
I
deal.
haven't gotten to Season 2, and you're just casually dropping information about the outside setting.
Oh, yeah, for like 2 seconds.
It doesn't matter. I haven't gotten to it yet. You know I just watched it. You casually dropped that without so much as a little visual courtesy. Spoiler warning incoming for Season 2. I understand it wasn't a massive spoiler, but god fucking damn it, woman.
Okay, here's my rule on this, because I get it, I understand, and I am a lot less, I give less of a shit about spoilers than other people. I do try to give spoiler warnings on things. I don't consider something a spoiler warning if it's like just a piece of information dropped at like the start of an episode or something like that, even if it's not something you've already seen or whatever. If it's just like information given, like, I don't know, I don't really...
Okay. Because I have courtesy for our listeners, I'm not going to say what you said, but I am going to say that what you said was a foundational piece of information about the greater world that the entire fucking thing is set in.
Okay.
How is that not a spoiler?
I don't know. I don't really consider it to be.
Jesus Christ.
I also don't, I don't know, it's also like setting stuff, which like, yeah, world building can be spoilers to a degree, but that like...
Given that it's a world building detail that was not revealed throughout the entirety of the first season,
yeah, but
yes,
it's like, it's obvious. I don't know. I get it. I understand. You are correct.
You cannot stop yourself from devil's advocating. I know that about you.
I know.
I'm aware.
Anyways, well... I did just record my video review of your book, and so now I need to add a few addendums.
Do you now?
Yeah, I'll just be, I gotta click everybody. It's just, it's, you know, for every time you, go after me in this podcast, another criticism gets added to the video.
Okay.
Another click. For every click I'll add another criticism. And they'll be petty too. So,
like, what are you gonna do? Point out that I misspelled some shit? I've already just owned up to that on this very podcast.
Fair enough. How do you? Well, the other thing is, here's something to make you feel better. By the way,
okay.
So one thing that we have talked about, I'm just letting listeners know this, that you're gonna fix it, so it's not a big deal. Your audiobook just had because you edited it yourself. There's a few repeated lines in the audiobook just from like, oh, you missed it in the edit or whatever from when you were editing your narrator. Yeah. I was listening to the audiobook for the new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping, which was very good. I really enjoyed it. They had the same problem. And even worse, it wasn't, there was a couple times, there's like 1 or 2 times where they had repeated lines, and I'm like, you have professionals who, like, people who are, like, paid to do this, and you were just doing it because it's, like, your book. Not to say that you weren't passionate about it, but, like, you're not doing it for money.
I'm one human being who does not normally audio edit audiobooks.
Yes,
So,
yes. It does not have the time necessarily to edit like an 8-hour audiobook.
No, that's why it took me like 3 goddamn years.
Yeah, but the worst thing about this one was they left in because I'm assuming they must have ripped it from whatever they did for the CDs, and they left the CD thing in a couple times where it was like the thing stopped and then went Sunrise on the Reaping, disc 7.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, a couple times it did that. So don't feel bad, Vera. Yours was better than the audiobook for probably one of, if not the biggest book release of the year. So.
God damn it. So. Wow, I do feel better for that, actually. Thank you.
So, I need, remind me, I need to send you where I found the extra ones for you.
Yes. And I had one other person send me some that also helped out. So shout out to Jen. Thank you very much. That was a huge help. But yeah,
I will say, and just to let listeners know, like, yes, Vera needs to fix those as of right now, but the narrator is fantastic.
Oh, she's
so
great.
Good. Really good. One of the best audiobook narrations I've ever heard. And considering you got her as an indie publisher, like, that's fantastic.
Aaliyah Etori, I was the first book that she has narrated.
Whew, really?
Yep. She's an actress and a voice actress, and I cannot recommend her enough. I really, really enjoyed working with her. And yeah, I was so happy with the results.
Yeah, she was fantastic. Like, her character voices were so good. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad.
I plan to bring her back when I eventually get around to another book.
Well, I hope I get a chance to work with her at some point and we are not 6 degrees separated. But speaking of which, today's episode we're going to be talking about for Battlestar Galactica is called 6 Degrees of Separation. Huzzah!
And not a Kevin Bacon in sight. I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, I know. Also, don't hate me. I forgot, because we're recording this earlier than normal, I forgot to look at comments. So let me just quick pull those up and vamp.
Here's what I will say about comments on something else while you're pulling those up.
Yes.
So I had my review for the first season of Severance go out yesterday at time of recording. And there is such a split in the comments between people going, oh, you're going to love season 2. I don't think you're going to like season 2. Or just this neutral, I can't wait to hear what you think about season 2, which could mean fucking anything. The spread is all over the place.
I think I know which way you're going to come down. Maybe I'll put it in the spoiler minute here. I'll put my thoughts. I won't spoil for listeners. I will not spoil Severance, but I will put on record in the spoiler minute today whether or not what I think Vera's thoughts on the second season of Severance will be, like her general overview thoughts on it without spoiling anything. Just so I have it on record, because I'm fairly sure I know what your opinion's going to be on the show.
We'll see.
But yes, we do have some quick comments, and I forgot we are doing comments for the episode You Can't Go Home Again. And we had asked in that one for favorite fascist characters. And like, what are people's favorite fascist characters? And one here was how quickly you forget the greatest fictional fascist of them all, Bester from Babylon 5.
Everybody's favorite fascist. It's Bester.
Also, someone commented on that, and that was Sisalsman, I think is how you say it. Apologies if I get it wrong. But the Bitter Fig responded to that and said, one thing I enjoyed is that the Centauri kind of aren't. The brutal colonialists and racist oppressors, and the distinction between that and fascism might not have been meaningful to Narn the Narn from Narn, but I think if we're doing analysis from a distance, it's worth noting the differences. The structures of internal control and mythology within the Psycorps are under Clark's Earth are pretty different, best we can see from the Centauri. I agree completely.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the things I really liked about Babylon 5.
Yeah, that is something worth knowing, because while fascist governments can frequently be colonialist and expansionist and all these other things, one does not necessarily follow the other. Because, plenty of societies, including America, at various points, has been colonialist and expansionist without being fascist until recently.
Well, that's what I really liked about the Shadows, because the Shadows were like an eldritch horror-y thing in the show, but they also were the point that the Shadows were ultimately making is like, in terms of the themes of the show, is like they're all about the underlying ideology of might makes right. kind of, to a degree, and how the shadows sort of like influence colonialism, imperialism, fascism, all of that stuff. Like that underlying ideology of might makes right is sort of underlying all of these different systems of like hierarchy and things like that. But they aren't all the same, which is why I enjoyed like using them for that, which is kind of like a good way to use Eldritch Horror. Is like, here's the underlying ideology and idea behind all of these things, but they are different in how they showcase themselves. So
Yeah.
And then another person that someone put here, favorite fictional fascist is definitely Scar and his army of hyenas. He's got too much charisma not to be in the song. There's another one that said Daleks are definitely up there, but the Cylons will eventually prove more nuanced. Shouldn't have read that. Sorry, this is me not checking that, but it's fine. I'm assuming you'll get the idea that they'll be more nuanced. I'm basically with my fictional fascist. I like the Borg. And there's a lot of comments on that one because, they can go deeper on that. I would argue the Borg aren't necessarily representing fascism until you get the Borg Queen. The Borg Queen makes them.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the Borg.
Before that, they're more like a fear of collectivist like hegemony to the point that it erases individual identity.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Borg bear more similarities to things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and this American nightmare version of communism and socialism than fascism. Until you get to the Borg Queen, which was the single stupidest and worst thing they ever did with the Borg, and they won't fucking let it go.
Yes. Yeah, the Borg kind of like represent like fear of hegemony that erases individuality, which like, again, can go to like, ooh, communism, ooh, the American evil version of communism. But also sort of like the sort of like, it kind of is in the same thing of like the alternate version of like the Federation. Because the Federation, we could argue, still has American centralized values under, neoliberal ideals of individuality and bullshit and all that jazz. However, thematically, the Federation represents a more like, communistic or utopian sort of world that the Borg are sort of like the darker side of, just like the Dominion are sort of the fascist darker side of the Federation sort of thing. So,
yeah. No, I wouldn't peg the Borg as fascist, at least not initially.
Mm-hmm.
Not when they were well written. And look, understand to the haters out there. I like First Contact too, and if that was the only place she appeared, maybe I'd let it go. But they kept bringing her back, and they fucking shouldn't.
Here's my... I'll end on this, and then we can actually get to the episode, because I could go off on the Borg, and I will at some point. But I don't hate the Borg Queen. I actually don't even hate her appearances in Voyager. When she's used as like a interesting counterpoint to Janeway in the Seven of Nine relationship. Like there's this weird thing where like Seven of Nine is kind of like the person that the Borg Queen and Janeway fight over ideologically, and I find that to be kind of an interesting use of her. It like, I don't necessarily hate the Borg Queen. I think that she makes the Borg generally less interesting.
Yes.
Her specifically, like in First Contact, she's a great scene stealer, and her stuff that she gets within the Borg in Voyager, for the most part, there's a 2-parter episode that is awful with her, but like for the most part, she is used decently there. But she just generally makes the Borg themselves less interesting. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
And also, her appearance in Picard season 3 sucks, but that's a whole other different conversation.
I still haven't watched that. I still haven't watched season 2. I don't know if I ever will.
You don't need to. Picard season 1 was the best one, and even that one wasn't fantastic.
I didn't even think that was that good. So
yeah, that's my. I mean, people will fight for season 3, but I don't. Anyways,
it's on one of my blooper reels somewhere. I sat down to review season 1 and realized halfway through the review I hadn't actually finished the last episode yet.
Yeah.
And I went, oh shit. And so I got back up and finished it and sat back down. It didn't alter any of my opinions. But like that was the impact that Picard season 1 had on me. I didn't realize I hadn't finished it before I started reviewing it.
This is my quick opinion of Picard is like, it's just like seasons 1 and 2 I actually think have some of the best ideas in Star Trek. Like I actually think I love some of the world building and ideas that they have in Picard seasons 1 and 2, but they are so terribly executed, like just really terribly executed, that I find it ultimately disappointing. And then Picard season 3, I think, is kind of terrible ideas, very well executed. Like, it's very competently executed, just terrible ideas. So.
What a contrast.
I know, right? It's kind of the prequels versus sequels Star Wars stuff problem there. Actually, almost down to a T. It's like they did that in Microcosm. Anyways, jumping back into Battlestar Galactica World, let us get into our recap. We start off the episode with Baltar looking at a microscope and looking at some cells there, and he's sort of talking to Head 6 as he sort of jumps between the real world and his mind palace with her about God. He's like, I don't see the divine hand of God in here. Maybe if I keep looking, I'll find God in one of them. But he's obviously being very facetious. And Head 6 is sort of being like, oh, you're why do you insist on blaspheming? And she keeps on being like re-emphasizing he's the one true God, but it's clear like Baltar's just interested in sex and he's trying to appease her. It's like, I accepted your God, and she's like, he's not my God, he is God, he's big enough for all of us. And he's like, yes, I get it. But then eventually she keeps reiterating this point, and he just goes off on her, and he's like, you're boring me to death with this superstitious drivel. They were, up until this, like, Cylons were little more than toasters with great looking legs. And then she just sort of gets pissed and says and leaves, essentially, being like, all right, you can, see what gets you if you don't have God.
So, okay. I'll say now, I don't think this is a bad episode or an uninteresting episode or anything else, but this is such a sledgehammer of an opening scene to get us to where the rest of it goes. Because, like, yes, Head 6 has had the God reiterating thing, but, like, this is a scene where it's literally the only thing she says. So, like, I know you said he's more interested in sex, but honestly, I don't fucking blame him for going off and saying, you're fucking boring me.
Yeah.
Because she was boring me, too.
Yeah, it was a very heavy-handed thing, because, like, yeah, she is just very much giving, like, I'm knocking at your door and trying to convert you energy.
Oh, yeah. Like, for the purposes of this scene alone, she has gone full Bible basher, and he has gone the most asshole of asshole atheists.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't buy it. It's that it, as an opener for an episode, it feels real unearned. This doesn't feel like a culmination of stuff. This feels like quick hit the warp speed so that we can get to where we actually want to go.
Yeah, it sets up the thematics of the episode very overtly. So
yeah.
Well, she sort of leaves his mind path. Oh, did you have?
I will say I quite like that. Like, he's going off on her, and she leaves and shuts the door, and he kind of stops dead. He's like, and then he goes to the door and picks up his same line again, louder, because, like, the idea that he has lost his audience seems to be the thing that offends him the most.
Well, yeah, he makes the most sense for his ego, right?
Oh yeah,
he wants someone
was a good touch. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. I also do like I should also emphasize, like, I did like the point where he was just trying to get sex, and really he snapped at her, like, when he couldn't get sex. Like, it was just a lot of, like, appeasement, and just the tactics as actors was very fun. I enjoyed the actors' performances throughout all of it, even if the dialogue wasn't great. So, anyways, he goes to follow her. He opens up another door looking for her, and it also smash cuts to the real world, and Duala is standing there saying that he is needed on the in CIC. So he goes up to CIC, and there is a woman who looks just like number 6, Head 6, standing there, but clearly dressed differently.
Dressed far more conservatively, which he makes a comment about, and she's deeply offended by.
Mm-hmm.
Then...
Yep. So Adama and Ty let him know that a woman named Shelley Godfrey is accusing him, making some pretty disturbing accusations, and he's like, "Oh, okay, where is she?" And they say she's standing right there next to you, and hey, it is the 6th that is standing next to him.
So, okay. I'm trying to think of how much I want to talk about this now, how much I want to talk about this later.
Okay.
which is a difficult thing to parse. So, okay, some parts of this I'm going to talk about later. Here's what I'll say now, because it was one of the first thoughts that I had. Now, I have reasons to not stick with this thought as it goes along, but one of the first thoughts I had was, I hadn't considered the possibility that the Cylons might be templated off of actual people. It's not something I considered, and it's not something we talked about. I think I had discarded it as a notion early on just because it just seemed messy. It just seemed like it would be cleaner for them, especially for infiltration purposes, to just create new people. Because otherwise, you have to get this person's full backstory and pretend to be them, or you have to hope that nobody who knows the real person sees the fake version. For my money, it just made more sense to keep it clean, that they not be templated off of actual people who exist on Caprica. That having been said, it's still possible that they could do that with at least some of the models. And I'll circle back onto this thought, but like that was the first thought I had at this moment.
Okay, interesting. But yes, because I'll just say this, because obviously we'll know where we go, but it's interesting you had that, because I when I first watched this, I was like, oh, she's definitely a Cylon right from like the get-go. So that's interesting as a dichotomy.
I didn't assume that she wasn't a Cylon. That seemed too easy. So I'm like, okay, what are the other complicating factors? And it's not even necessarily that I think it's more complicating of things for her to be a real person that the versions of 6 are templated off of, but just that the fact that I actually don't know either way and have to at least acknowledge that that is a possibility, that is the complicating factor.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yes. So turns out we're back after the break that she is here to accuse him of letting the Cylons into the defense grid. And she says that she was an assistant to Dr. Amarak, the guy who got killed way back in 33, who was said he needed to talk to the president. And, Baltar's like, well, how convenient. We only have your word for that. And, she says she has a photo from the defense mainframe of him entering the mainframe before the attack. And we cut to like them looking at this photo or this video of this person. And we get the sense, and I love his delivery on this. He's like, oh, well, I definitely never did that. And we like, because her presentation of what he did was that he went in and planted a bomb which blew up the mainframe, which is what the Cylons were then able to use to be able to get in, which is different from what we know what actually happened, which is the 6 that he was seeing on Caprica used him to get a back door into the defense mainframe. So this is not actually what happened, though he did let them into the mainframe, just not as overtly intentionally as this is implying.
Yes. Although, again, not that I believe this or even did at the time, it did, again, at least briefly open up the possibilities. Like, okay, let's go back to Head 6. If she is, in fact, a chip in his head, is it out of the realm of possibility that he was controlled and did something during a blackout? Because he definitely does not remember doing this. That we know for certain, if only because of how much he freaked out when Caprica 6 told him what was going on. So we know he does not remember doing this. That given everything else that may or may not be going on, doesn't mean that it's impossible for him to have done it.
But yes, no, yes. So, but we never got a sense of like him having blackouts before this.
No, we didn't. And like, I'm not even floating that as a theory. I'm not, especially given where this goes within this episode. But again, I kind of like this complicating of factors, not by flatly being like, this is what's going on, but just by floating possibilities of, well, this is stuff that might be going on. You can't prove that it isn't.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting seeing your interpretations that like coming into it fresh. It's fascinating actually to be like, oh yeah, it's one of those. There's a couple times where, and I won't spoil, but in previous episodes you've said things where I'm like, I had that same thought as well. That I'm like, you're wrong on that. But that is a thought that I had, and then there's sometimes you take swerves like a couple of these, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't really considered that necessarily. So it's interesting. Anyways, Yes,
I love that you had to drop "you're wrong" in there.
You're definitely you're 100% wrong. Like, you're definitely wrong.
Okay.
But I see how you got there, because I got there too. Anyways, I'll just put it this way: you're wrong in the ways that I was wrong at the same time, and that many people were wrong.
Well, I'm supposed to be better than all of you. God damn it!
No, not even close.
Oh.
I'm getting a click for that. I knew it. I knew it before I even said it. Anyways, we then basically Baltar says it's a long way from actual proof, or Adama, someone says it, and basically what they say, or that the Shelley Godfrey, I'll call her because that's her sort of name that she uses, says, well, we can use the reflection in the sort of like glass that's there to get an image of the man's face, because he can't see the guy's face in the video, and so they say they can sharpen it, and it'll take at least a day to be able to do so. So he loses his Cylon detector and security access privileges.
I kind of like this, because they are doing the stupid cliche thing of enhance, but they are at least saying, yeah, no, that's gonna take a while. Like, that's at least a mild acknowledgement, because like, enhance the image is such standard bullshit.
My favorite
there's only so many pixels in the image. You can sharpen the ball all day long. It's just going to be blurry in a different way.
My favorite was literally today. I watched the new episode of The Righteous Gemstones. And this is just a one-off joke. This isn't a spoiler, because apparently we get very upset at that. But yeah, just a one-off joke is they're looking at a picture, and one of the gemstones, she just goes, enhance on that corner, enhance, and then she's like, her earrings be more pretty than mine, bastard. Like, she's just enhancing to see if like the earring looked nicer.
How much of Red Dwarf have you seen?
All of it. I've seen all of it.
Okay, I think it's the Back to Earth episode where they really riff on the enhance thing, because it's like, look, enhance on that reflection of that eye, and then there we can see a teardrop. So enhance the raindrop that we see reflected in the eye, so that we see reflection in the raindrop reflecting off this hubcap.
Yeah, I love. I need to rewatch Red Dwarf. It's been a while. I love that show. Even though the Back to Earth season isn't even that great, but.
I mean, like, there's a fair amount of it that isn't that great, but it's still fun.
Anyways, we then cut to the Cylon Raider, and Callie is kind of helping Chief, attempting to try to figure the Cylon Raider out. But he's not having a fun time with all the gooey bits and not really getting it. Nope.
He's like, I was waiting for like a Dr. McCoy line. Like,
I'm an engineer, not a doctor, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm an engineer. I'm not a butcher. Like, he's wading through meat.
I was when I first watched this episode, I do remember being like, so help me God if we have another one of those scenes where like the episode a few episodes ago, a few episodes ago, where he like touches the wrong tentacle and then like shoots somebody. But like, just do I need that depression? I remember watching it, having so much tension when he's just mucking through that goop and being like, he's gonna pull a thing and Callie's gonna get shot in the head or something. So I was like, please keep people away from the forward-facing guns of that thing while you're in there. Like, safety protocol, people.
Didn't you learn your lessons?
Yeah, I was really, really freaking out about that the first time I watched it. Anyways, we kind of cut to Starbuck, or Apollo trying to help Starbuck get out of her medical bed because she has a cast on. And he sort of is playing with her, is like, here's your crutches of death, and just like trying to like be jokey and kid with her to get out. But she sort of says, I can't do it. And she sort of like pushes back against this and then goes and sits back down saying she can't do it. And she says she wants to take the pills, and Coddle says, well, we need you off the pills. I need them for myself, as he so jokingly says.
Yeah, I like the joke. I feel like I'm missing something as to what is her problem.
Yeah, it did feel a little weird.
Like, it's one of those things that I've kind of been talking about in general, where there are times where it feels like the characters are taking actions that make sense if you understand all the nuances to the character, but I don't yet. Because this character, as I understand her at least, the idea of her being resistant to physical therapy and being all defeatist about it doesn't track. It does not make sense to me. Now, that's not me saying that it can't make sense for the character, but if it does, then it's relying on aspects of the character that I have not been properly introduced to yet.
Yeah, you would think it'd be like way she's been depicted so far would be like, oh, I'm tough and strong. I can go out here. I can like get through it. That sort of for lack of a better term at the moment, like that sense of masculinity of like, yeah, I'll power through all the pain sort of thing that she's got going on. But and again, you could justify it with being like I don't want to be seen as weak in front of other people, or like there's millions of ways you could do it, but there's no evidence of that anywhere to like understand her interiority of why she's having this struggle.
Yeah, I think the thing is the show, I would like the show to have offered me an olive branch on this. Like even if it is just somebody like Apollo going, I wouldn't expect you to be, this troublesome about it, or like just even if her response to that is like, look, I don't want to talk about it, I just don't want to do it, which would give me an indication, okay, so there's damage there I'm not seeing.
That's the other thing that I was gonna get to, because like it's fine if we didn't get it before this, but there was no indication, and just spoilers for the episode, like there's no moment where she like reveals or indicates that there's something, like there's nothing. It's literally just she doesn't want to do it, and then she does for a reason that we'll get to later. But like there's no hint at why.
There's no payoff to this, and also I'm not even sure why it's here. Like honestly, even within this episode, the fact that she is briefly troublesome in regards to not putting in the work and or bitching about the physical therapy. Like there's one scene she's gonna have later, but within the scope of this episode, none of this matters.
Yeah, and the later scene I like, but yeah, it doesn't really matter, and so it like feels like the only reason this is here is to earn that one scene, which is I don't dislike that scene, and we'll talk about it, but it feels weird to not really give a good arc to this, other than like we just want to have that scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems to be justifying that one scene later on, which again, not bad scene, but yeah. All right, we then cut to Gaius calling Roslyn, and Roslyn sort of saying like, I find this hard to fathom, and Baltar's like, thank you, can I come back to Colonial 1? And she's like, well, you've been put on a no-fly list. And we also cut into this with Baltar looking for Six in his mind palace, and he can't find her, she's not there. And he then tells Roslyn, I have reason to believe that she may be a Cylon. But when he says that, we cut back to the president, and she has collapsed.
Yeah. I'll just note at this point, Baltar cannot keep his cool worth a damn.
No, he cannot. Guy has no chill.
We've kind of gotten hints of this before, honestly, because like he's had his little like moments before, but the thing is nobody ever followed up before. So like he got away with it because people were like, oh, he's kind of weird. But like you could always tell he was panicking before. But now people are actually going like, why are you panicking? And so now he's really fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't been good at hiding it anyways, but people haven't been pressing him on it up to now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just, like, he's used to... I mean, it gives me the energy of, like, he's not someone who's ever used to having to be questioned at any point in his life. Like, he's just been, like, playing the suave guy that everyone fawns over, and he's seen as intelligent and everything.
See,
and so,
you
like,
say that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a level of panic from him that, to me, says he has been caught at this, probably from a younger age, probably traumatically.
Interesting.
But very rarely as an adult. Because there is a level of fear from him that does not strike me as coming from a fear of being caught when he never has before. He has a fear in him that to me says he has been caught and it was so bad that this is dredging up trauma.
Interesting, because my read on it would be similar. It would be like he has a lot of insecurity from childhood, not necessarily trauma, but he's like an insecure boy. Like maybe it's trauma in the sense that like dad never like daddy issue sort of stuff of like daddy never appreciated him or thought he was good at anything, like something like that level, but not like a specific trauma. And that would informs his like generalized insecurity. But like when he's been an adult, he's never been pressed on it, so he has no coping mechanisms, like adult coping mechanisms on how to.
Yeah,
handle
no,
that.
I agree with that. That as an adult, he has gotten away with this, but I feel like his reactions are dredging up something else.
I won't say either way on any of that, but it's that was like my initial read on it. So, anyways, we then have I also should say too. I will say the president collapsing at that exact moment read is weirdly convenient for me.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right when he says she's a Cylon, she collapses, and I'm like, okay, that's a way to like pass the buck a little bit on him saying that to her at that exact moment. It's one of those like I buy it. It leads to some interesting character stuff with Rosalind, but it feels like it happening at that moment is a little bit like, okay, a little hand of the author convenient there.
Of all the instances of incredibly convenient timing in this, I find that to be one of the least egregious.
Fair enough. It's not overly egregious. It's a nip.
This is an episode loaded to the gills with convenient / inconvenient timing, depending on what the story wants to do.
Yes, but some of this we'll get to it. But like, I would argue some of the convenient timing is part of the point. No.
Well, we'll get there. This is the stuff I'm gonna drill into when we get to the back end.
All right, we'll get there. Anyways, we then cut to Billy dealing with a quick press conference about the president collapsing. So the word has gotten out, and Billy apologizes to her after the press conference. He sort of like he had called for Doc Coddle without like checking that anyone would be able to hear the transmission. So people are aware that she collapsed, and he's sort of giving excuses. Coddle sort of prods Rosalind and learns that she took 3 of the pills that she was supposed to take only 1 of, so triple the dose. And he says, "You're lucky you didn't lapse into a coma." They always want to 3 times. I think what his line is like 3 times the dosage must work 3 times as fast. Everyone believes. And so she wants to get on her feet and in front of the press as soon as possible. And he says he can give her a shot, but he won't like the side effects. And he also points out there's a time that's going to come when you can't hide what you're going through from everybody. And then there's also a little enema joke at the end there, or whatever the shot is that has to go in her ass or whatever. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I assumed it had to be jammed into her butt meat, cheek meat.
So a little bit of like it's not that kind of shot, ha 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 joke. So whatever on that front. But yeah, it's just a point of like, yeah, she can't hide it forever. So
yeah.
We then cut to this is a weird ass scene. Shelley Godfrey meeting with Adama. He's sort of questioning her. He's like, it's convenient that Baltar's right. It's convenient that you knew this doctor right before he died, and then you have this information. And she said, he was paranoid. He gave me the information because he thought that Silence had infiltrated the Olympic carrier. And he said we were friends, and I loved him very, very much, and I miss being loved. And then she clearly tries to come on to Adama a little bit by resting her head on him. It's like very blatant. It's like, I just want to be held again. You understand that, don't you? And then she tries to kiss him. And then it cuts to Adama being like, do not allow Shelley Godfrey to roam free. I want everyone to know everyone she's talked to and where she's been. Like, he wants her.
Like, I appreciate that he immediately finds all of this highly suspicious, and he's like, yes. Well, that's fucked.
Like, I'm glad for that. Thank God.
Yes, I'm down for that. But like, okay, this is again one of those things that makes me question the intelligence of some things that I think I'm supposed to think are smart. In this case, let's assume at this point that she is a Cylon, because given where the story eventually goes, where this episode goes, I'm pretty comfortable in saying that she is not an original template that's Cylons. She is just a version of 6. So this just makes it look like the Cylons don't have the imagination to program her to do anything else other than infiltrate sexily.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you've ever seen the joke things, either there's a subreddit or there's some people on TikTok who do this, men writing women.
Oh yeah. She titted along boobily down the stairs.
Yeah, she titted boobily down the stairs. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it feels like. Which the thing is, would be more excusable if the human-appearing Cylons were made by people. Because it would make more sense if a human man programmed her to be like this. But so far as I understand it, the human-looking Cylons were created by the Cylons. And while I get creating her with the capability of doing this to have that kind of infiltration that obviously works on someone like Baltar, like, you couldn't give her a second personality trait? Like, what the hell?
Interesting assumptions, is all I will say. Anyways, it's just fascinating, just like hearing stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that's an interesting assumption. Yeah. I know, just this later stuff. This is one of the problems with this show, because there's a bit of like smug, like, yeah, interesting, because I know where this goes and I know some of the answers. I'm like, okay, cool. That's part of the joy.
Don't lie.
I love it so much. I love it so much. Me and the listeners who have already seen the show, we can sit here in smug superiority over you. It's just a nice dose of like, I can be smarter than someone else today, and it just gives me so much joy, Vera. I revel in these moments with you, Vera, to know that I know better.
The thing is,
you can't come back, Vera. That was a nice voice crack.
Silly girl. I hope that you enjoy the sense of superiority, of knowledge, of being in control, when I can be here to remind you how quickly that can be taken from you. How happy are you that we're not visually recording this one, given how red your cheeks currently are? It's spreading across your whole face.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much. Anyways, we cut to fuck you. We cut to Cylon occupied Caprica.
And the never-ending fucking Hilo subplot. Okay, can I just... I feel like this is actually the only thing I want to say about this entire thing, even though we've got multiple scenes of it. We have had what feel like... I don't know what the real-time passage is, but it feels like we've had weeks of time and development on,
They said, I think it's like 23 days or 24 days, something like that, in showtime.
Yeah, something like that. Like, we've had massive events. We'd have the stuff with the water, the stuff with Zarek, all these things going on. And then we keep cutting back to Caprica, and it's just still the two of them wandering around avoiding Cylons. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't need to check in with them every episode. If you don't have anything to do with them, it's fine. I'll assume they're still alive for an episode. Come back next episode when you have something to actually do.
Yeah, it is just like every episode is just one time. It's like one plot beat per episode, and that's really about it. And it's so frustrating.
It is painfully slow. I remember somebody mentioning in a comment that Hilo was originally intended to die.
Yes, I think I said that too. Yeah,
in the miniseries, and I think you said that as well. Yeah, and this is what makes that super obvious. It's like, oh, we should bring Hilo back. What are we gonna do with him? I don't know. Yeah, it's real damn obvious that you don't know. And also, like, the more time they spend there, the weirder that it is that, say, for instance, all the cities are intact, but there's also no bodies.
Yeah, that is the one thing that I found weird, too, that there's no bodies
because
around.
They dropped nukes, which means one of two things happened to everybody. They were blown up, in which case there should be a hell of a lot more destruction than we see. There isn't, because they didn't budget for it. Or two, they died of radiation poisoning, in which case there should be a hell of a lot more bodies laying around. There has been, one body being gnawed on by rats is what we have seen this entire time.
Yeah, and even if you had the conceit of, like, okay, the bombs dropped and people were racing to get out of the city and they, like, died in the countryside or whatever, it's still sort of like... there would have been people that died in the chaos, like people rushing out. Like there would be bodies around and things broken and such. Like I can handle with like, okay, they didn't want to like they got rented out a city street in Vancouver or whatever the hell they filmed. And they didn't want to like start smashing windows everywhere because they didn't have Last of Us money. But yeah, it's just weird. So
yeah. And it didn't bother me up to this point, but I am at the point where I'm losing my mind that the Hilo subplot is not going anywhere. So I'm starting to notice all the problems more.
Yep, I don't disagree. But yeah, we just got to...
Which is like just a general tip and reminder if you're doing long form storytelling, you don't have to make it plot hole free, but you do have to have the story move along well enough that I don't notice it.
Yes.
Because when it slows down, that's when I'm going to notice shit that I might not care about otherwise.
So all that happens here is Hilo and Toomer run from Centurions and hide from Centurions. So that's really all that happens here. We get more later on, but that's all that happens at this point. We then cut to Gaeta analyzing the photograph, and then he heads to the bathroom as it's going, as it's sort of, enhancing. And Baltar comes in, and I also should say it's notably a unisex bathroom, which I like. There was a woman in there.
I did note that.
Yep.
See, they've got it figured out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I can't wait. But yeah, Baltar comes in and clearly takes the bathroom next to Gaeta, despite it being a big room. And Baltar starts awkwardly talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're busy. Don't let me distract you. I just wanted to say I value."
I was kind of waiting for Baltar's foot to like ease over into the other stall, like to tap his foot in that like, "Hey, let's use the glory hole" way.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, hey, man.
Like the whole front end of this is just the camera fixed on their feet in the neighboring cells.
Oh yeah,
like, Jesus Christ,
it's great. This is my favorite scene of the episode, frankly. But yeah, he goes, I just want to say I value your assistance these past few weeks, and how's the picture? And Gaeta's like clearly uncomfortable, being like a few more hours to go. And Baltar like first try is like, well, the disc itself could be fake. If you let me join you in the lab, I could show you. And Gaeta puts him down. He's like, well, my reputation's at stake. And Gaeta's like, so is mine. And so it's like it causes a little argument between the two of them. But eventually Gaeta sort of gets up and leaves. But then Shelley Godfrey comes in and uses the bathroom next to him.
Hold on, can we stop? Can we mention what Gaia says trying to get Gaeta to like not leave and like come back?
Oh, that's not what I'll point out that line because that line's a meme. But that's not. It's when he says it to Shelley Godfrey.
Maybe we're not thinking of the same line.
Oh, what's line?
You didn't wash your hands.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of a different line. Yeah.
I know which line you were thinking of, which is one of the.
I love that line. It's so good. It became a meme for a while.
Like I get why it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But like I say that in a way that works because it feels. We'll get to the line, but I kind of want to say my thoughts on it now because we brought it up. It feels like something that he keeps in his back pocket that he thinks is badass.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't realize how fucking stupid he sounds.
It's like, oh, this is going to be great when I use it. It's like, I thought of it, and it's going to be great. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's like me when I say don't misgender me, because people call me misgender because of Jesse Gender. It's Mrs. Gender now. Anywho.
It's Ms. Gender, damn it.
Anyways, so Shelley Godfrey comes in and he confronts her and she plays like regardless, she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and he's like, I didn't plan a bomb, I don't know anything of the sort, and he sort of accuses her of being another Cylon copy. And he's like, struck a nerve, and like she like runs out, like clearly perturbed, and he's like, this is not over, and his line is, no more Mr. Nice Gaius, which I love. That line became a meme for a while, and I love it.
It deserved to. That's fucking awful.
It's awful in the best way.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
That is the best kind of terrible.
We then cut to Boomer going to visit the Cylon Raider as the chief is working on it, and he's sort of saying, I can't figure this thing out, nothing's working. And then Boomer, slightly outside of, like...
We kind of glossed over it before. I actually really liked Callie trying to decipher Starbucks notes. And tell them to the chief in the previous scene. It's like, well, look, Starbucks notes said, like, you start it by pulling the fleshy flange next to the bit that looks like a dog.
He's like, everything looks like that. Yeah, it was that bit. It was good.
It's all fleshy flanges. Yeah.
But yes, Boomer comes in. Chief can't see her necessarily. He's like under the Cylon, but she starts like not fondling, like stroking the Cylon Raider, and she says it's not really a thing. It's probably a Cylon itself, more animal maybe than the human models. Genetically designed. Maybe they genetically designed it for its task to be a fighter. Can't treat it like a thing. You have to treat it like a pet, I guess. And it's very clear, like she's tapping into some sort of like Cylon like awareness or whatever. The Chief doesn't see her like stroking it, but he does sort of like get sort of like a questioning look of like, that's your guess. Like this was all very weird to say. So,
yeah. In which she gets huffing, kind of storms off, probably taking it like, yeah, well, you're just mad because you're just mad over the whole breakup thing, and I am too, so fuck you.
What do you make of her thoughts on it?
I mean, we're kind of circling back to something I said before, which is that if she, and she appears to be, fully independent and unaware, she still seems to be able to tap into a certain amount of Cylon knowledge, even subconsciously. And my big question is, are the Cylons aware that she can do that or not? Mm-hmm. That's the thing that I'm curious about. Is this something she's supposed to do? Is this something that she is not supposed to be able to do? Is this something they just never considered she might be able to do because they didn't test these things under the correct circumstances or whatever? So that's the open question to me, because my gut instinct is to say that the Cylons don't realize that she can kind of subconsciously tap into this stuff, because otherwise that's just a big hazard for an infiltration unit to accidentally give themselves away. So that said, it is also distinctly possible that they are aware of the bug and they just think it's worth the risk anyway.
May need it at certain points, sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I know narratively it's a contrivance to drop plot points and move things forward. I'm aware of the hand of the author a little bit with this, but I'm trying to take it on its own terms.
Right. We then cut to the scene that we alluded to earlier, where Ty goes to see Starbuck, and he says, "Well, you're supposed to be up on your feet, and the chief sent me here to get you kick your ass out of bed, and clearly you still need rest, so no rush." And like Starbuck calls him out, is like, "Oh, you think that reverse psychology crap is going to work on me?" And he says, "All I know is that every day you spend in that bed, I have my opinion of you confirmed." And that seems to actually get through to her.
Yes.
So I do, yeah. Go.
Yeah, like you said before, this scene's decent. I think it's real contrived how we got here.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. It's like I like this scene in the sense that like you could read it kind of either way. Like Ty being earnestly like trying a little bit of like the reverse psychology stuff very much felt like obviously he's trying to reverse psychology, but his last line felt like there's a little bit of earnestness in it that he knew would get her going. So it's like he is trying to push her out and like get her going, but it's there is a bit of like earnestness to it too. It's like interesting way that it's played.
See, I almost took it a little less as earnestness and a little bit more of like, from his perspective, it's a heads I win, tails I win situation. Because if she doesn't get out of bed, as he said, she's confirming everything he says about her. And if she does, good. We have one more active pilot than we used to, and that's good for everybody's safety. So
yeah,
there isn't really a bad outcome on this for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, it's a good scene, but yeah, I just wish it would have felt more powerful. It was like her getting over something or dealing with something. It's just not.
Yeah. Again, I feel like we didn't properly justify why she was having a hard ass time.
Yeah. So I'm not
getting out of bed in the first place.
Yeah. So I'm not really invested in her struggle to do it. Like the scenes is nice and it's an interesting beat considering the history that these characters have already had so far in the show, but it doesn't come out of anything from this episode.
Yeah. It feels like a good payoff to something that never happened.
Yes. Exactly. It almost makes me wonder if there's like a cut scene, frankly, like if there's a deleted scene for this episode. I'll have to see, because it really honestly does feel like there should be like something got cut here.
And if there was a cut scene, just get rid of the Hilo and Boomer stuff from this episode.
Yeah, right. Put it elsewhere or whatever. Whatever. We then have Baltar talking to Adama, and he's basically trying to tell her, is like, I think I'm convinced she is a Cylon agent, and he's also in his head still looking for Head 6 as well throughout all of this. Adama's like, do you have any evidence to support this charge? And he's like, well, hey, look, the Cylon detector is about to work. I just need access to it. He's like, can't give you access to your equipment. I could tell Gata how to do that. And Adama's like, look, I'm just going to tell you straight. If your picture is on that photograph, every piece of equipment will be dismantled and quarantined. He sort of changes tactic and says, President believes I'm innocent. And Adama says the president hopes you're innocent because if you are who she says you are, you made fools of us both, and I don't like to be made a fool. And he sort of gets he starts coming in stronger. Baltar does and says, I don't like to be branded a traitor by a woman who's indicated that I, was a traitor. And I did not conspire with the Cylons. And I've been convicted in the court of public opinion without trial. And we cut to him walking through the hallways with people whispering him about him being a traitor. And I just sit here going oh, look, it's Musk crying about the Tesla stock going down.
A little bit. Yeah. See, I found myself in my head. All of a sudden I heard, this is a witch hunt. Yeah, it's worse than anything that's ever happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those cry me play me the world's smallest violin. To a degree, but I do like the tactic changes here, of Baltar trying to get access to the equipment and Adama just not being dumb and being you're not, we don't know, you asked for a nuke, essentially. The subtext is you asked for a nuke, I don't know what the fuck you've been building with that, we're gonna get rid of it.
And the thing is, at this point, because he's already under suspicion, Baltar can't just talk his way out of it. Whatever excuse he comes up with, the answer is still going to be, let's wait and see what the photo is.
Exactly.
Because any version where he says, and this is a reason we shouldn't finish enhancing that photo, everyone's going to go, no!
Speaking of enhancing that photo, we do cut to it, and Gata finishes the photo, and it is Baltar's face on there, but then a fire alarm gets pulled. Gata has to evacuate, and Baltar sneaks into the room. Clearly, he pulled the fire alarm. He tries desperately and manically to destroy the picture, but
I love this. I love how panicky he gets.
He literally, his eyes get manically wide. It's so good.
Oh yeah, he's panicking so bad. But I really like this, especially if we're gonna make the Elon Musk comparison. When he walked into Twitter, it's I want to see everybody's code, and they're all that's not how any of this. That's how this shit worked 20 years ago when you were still coding, asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he doesn't seem to actually know how to properly use this equipment, and he can't figure out how to delete this one image. He starts slamming down on the keyboard like a friggin' angry chimp, and then he just starts pulling plugs, and it disconnects a monitor. And my first thought was, disconnecting the monitor doesn't delete the data, dipshit. But it didn't even close down the monitor that his face is on. It closed down the other one, and I'm just laughing the whole time.
It's a good comedic beat. Yeah,
this was great. I fucking love this. And I love the way it ends, because if you don't mind me picking up
please go for it, because I love his last line.
Well, it's not even the line. The part that I love is he picks up a chair to swing at the monitor that his face is on, and you hear Adama saying, put it down, and Baltar puts it down, and then he's standing right in front of this thing and pulling basically the same face that is directly on the monitor. And actually, first of all, this is actually something worth noting. And I feel like it's the show's own fault that I haven't noticed this before. The show actually does some really incredible framing of shots, with the camera placement and where things are. And I started noting this because for the YouTube version of this, I will pull stills to put up in reference of what we're talking about. And there are some, especially in some recent episodes, some masterfully put together shots. That having been said, I feel like part of the reason I haven't noticed is because the shots don't fucking stay still, because it's all fucking handheld. And it's harder for me to notice the meticulousness when the entire camera is wavering. I notice it so much more when I pull stills and then look at an image that isn't bobbing and weaving on me. I go, oh shit, that's really well composed. But anyways, I love the composition of him standing there in reality, pulling the exact same fucking face that's on the monitor.
Yeah, it's really good. My favorite bit is like Adama, like you said, comes in and they drag him out, and Adama looks at the image, being like, "Oh yeah, it's him." But as he gets pulled out, he like the sort of Marines are dragging him out, and he has like, "She's out! She's got it in for me! That's Shelley Godfrey!" You can hear him like yelling down the hallway, and it was giving such like those dang mystery gang Scooby Doo kids energy that I really really liked. Like I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those dang kids. Like, it was great. It was just a very fun line.
Yeah.
So, we then cut to Starbuck goes to the flight deck, and she, everyone sort of like treats her with like, no, don't say a single word, and they sort of like have the jokes like, your new boyfriend is a bit of a jerk, talking about the Cylon Raider, and she's a girl. And then she goes in and actually like is able to get it running a little bit. And then the chief says, "Don't shoot anybody." And I'm like, now you're thinking about it, chief? Now you're worried about it? But yes, that was just a quick resolution again to an arc that felt weird. I did like the she's a girl bit.
Yeah. I have a feeling the show's never going to circle back and give a reason why Starbuck can make more sense of this thing than the entire ground crew. I'm not going to say that I need a justification for that necessarily, but if the show were to offer me one, I'd be real interested to hear it.
It's interesting. We then cut to Baltar talking to, Baltar is now in a cell, and he wakes up and the president is there. And she says, sorry. And he says, well, thank you. And he assumes that she's here to free him. But when he realizes he's not, she says, he goes, I'm interested. I'm innocent. But then she goes, I want to understand why you did it. And he claims like, I'm being framed. Why, and she goes, why would she do that? I was talking about Shelley Godfrey. She's like, she's a Cylon. And she says, I want to believe you. I want to believe that I didn't make a profound error in trusting you. Because if anyone can be a Cylon, then the only thing we have left to trust is our instincts. And when they told me it was your face on the monitor, I believed it. I believed you were involved in the attack. Somehow I feel it. And then Baltar gets very serious here and says, you'll forgive me, Madam President, if I don't wish to be executed based solely on your gut feelings. And she says, may the gods have mercy on your soul, and leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting moment. Like I also really, really liked this scene quite a lot. Because it is sort of like one of those, like, yeah, we can't trust anybody, so we have to kind of rely on our gut feelings. And she has the right instinct about him, maybe for the wrong reasons at this point, but like has the right instincts, but like not for the reasons that are on display. So it's just, it's interesting, and it sets an interesting, I won't say whether it goes anywhere or not, but like an interesting sort of like rift between Baltar and the president. So, yeah. Yep. Anyways, we then cut to Hilo and Toomer again. It's basically there's some really bad lightning effects as they like talk to each other, and Hilo basically comes out with saying like, "Oh, I've always had feelings for you. I wanted to respect you and the chief, but I always had feelings for you." And she says, "I felt exactly the same way." And they start sexy times. And
yeah. So the thing about this,
yeah,
so that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, it was just so melodramatic. The only thing that
fucking the rainstorm, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, even too, it gets weirder too, because like there's this weird music that plays. Like I love Bear McCreary. This music was weird. It was like some weird like electronica beat stuff. Like it was very like atonal from everything else. But another thing that happens, it intercuts. Well, one thing that happens too is while they're having sex, she has the glowy red spine that we saw Six have back in the miniseries when she had sex with Baltar, and I'm just like, good thing they don't do it doggy style. Just a very good thing.
Yeah.
That's your Cylon detector right there. Just fuck doggy style.
Wait, will she take it from behind?
Yeah.
Will he bend over to let you peg him? Will she take it from behind? If the answer is no in both cases, it's a Cylon! What? Oh, damn. What leverage that should be. Honey, you have to let me peg you, otherwise I won't know you're not a Cylon.
Oh, God.
for clarity, don't actually be coercive towards your partners.
Yes.
But
yes.
like, it's still funny to think about because, yeah, that image is one of the weird. Like it was a striking image once. Reminding me of it just makes me realize what a weird fucking conceit that is. And again, sort of brings into question how intelligent are the Cylons? Because that seems like a major design flaw.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a weird point. I think they actually. I need to see if I can dig up some quotes on this. I do think at some point they realized that problem and we're like, well, we're gonna stop that. Like the writers of the show. Because I think this is we'll track, but I think this might be the last appearance of that as an image. Anyway, so yeah, there's more reasons the Hilo storyline drawing attention to details we shouldn't be questioning. Also on the ship intercut with this, the boomer on the actual Galactica goes to her mirror and like in her locker, and it has the word Cylon written on it. So
yeah.
Someone presumably is suspicious of her being a Cylon.
Well, I mean, at this point, given the ways in which her own subconscious appears to be acting up, I'm not convinced she didn't write it herself.
Interesting. I'm not saying anything either way.
Yeah, because like at this point, she seems to be going off script, or at least in my mind, going off script from what one would think you'd want a sleeper agent to do, and trying to alert oneself of what you are would certainly match going off script.
Would not say anything else about that. We then have Gaius in his cell, and he starts to pray. He says, I don't wish to offend. I know we haven't spoken before. I now acknowledge that you are the one true God. Please deliver me from this evil. I will devote the rest of what is left of my life to doing good. And then he switches it to carrying out your divine will is what I want to do. And that's when Head 6 finally comes back, and she says, I'm here. All will be well. You'll be as God wants it to be.
It is interesting that, like, first of all, I do buy that, and I'm not saying that all people do this, but I absolutely buy, especially a privileged dipshit like him, but an a-religious or atheistic person feeling truly desperate and then praying. Like, I buy that in certain circumstances with certain kind of people. I absolutely buy it with him. It is interesting to me that he immediately starts praying to the one true God that Head 6 was going on about, and not the Lords of Kobol.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting about that is, I don't know if you if you're familiar with the term of like a Christian atheist.
Yeah.
For listeners, basically what it amounts to is like, I don't believe in God, but the God I don't believe in is the God from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's this sort of weird thing that happens, especially in not technically, but effectively Christian nations like the U.S., where we're not taught a broadness of religion. You get atheists where, like, this is Bill Maher to a fucking T, where the only version of God that they'll tear down is this idea of the Christian God, basically only treating that as the only valid option for there being a God.
I'm being very smug about it too, that they, not always, but generally, Bill Maher.
Yeah, that too. But see, here's the thing that's interesting about this is that what that always reveals in a moment of desperation, if someone chooses to pray, who they turn to says something about some underlying, not even necessarily active belief, but some underlying instinct that may be cultural, it may be religious, it may be whatever, but he doesn't turn to his people's gods. He turns to the God of the thing in his fucking head. Mm-hmm. I find that really interesting, that he feels like he has a better shot appealing to a God he doesn't believe in, but is ostensibly the God of his enemy rather than the God of his own people. The gods,
as he said back in
the
miniseries, he's not on anybody's side. So,
which yes, is what he claims, but also at the same time, he knows the Cylons are trying to kill everybody. Like, he's in self-preservation mode.
Mm-hmm.
And up until this point, he hasn't really shown an interest in trying to benefit the Cylons actively. He's just trying to cover his own ass.
Mm-hmm.
But he still would rather turn to their God than the gods of those around him.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's an interesting point, too, that I'll point out. What did you make of the fact that he says, I want to devote my life to doing good, but that's not what brings Head 6 back. It's when he says, I want to carry out your divine will.
I think that is an interesting distinction for the show to make, because it is, it is a loaded thing to get into the notion of, what is done in the name of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly is a valid thing to bring up, that even if you believe something was done in the name of God, that doesn't mean that good was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there are some Christians or Catholics or even just religious folks generally who will be like, oh, well, if it's in the name of my God or gods or religion, it is inherently good, regardless of what I did.
That's the assumption many, many people operate on. And honestly, they kind of have to as almost an ego defense, because fundamentally, most people believe I am a good person as a core part of their self-identity.
Mm-hmm.
You get people with, hang-ups and self-doubt and all this other stuff who maybe think fundamentally I'm a bad person. But for most people, their default assumption is I am a good person. And therefore the things I do are good and the reasons I do them are good. And not many people openly interrogate those ideas. At least it's not something that our society encourages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, it's just an interesting distinction. We then cut to Gaeta coming in with some Marines, and Baltar thinks that he's about to be executed without trial. It's like, I haven't done anything. But then Gaeta reveals, like, no. The picture was a fake. I reran the checks, and there were markers that were pointing to photo manipulation that only were revealed after the photo had been developed. Baltar seems earnestly thankful to Gaeta, and Gaeta's like, I knew you weren't the kind of man who could have done that. And he's like, it was almost too easy. It was like she wanted to be found out. And the two Marines that were tailing her, and this is a separate scene. So we'll cut there. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So this is what I was referring to when I said that this is an episode built on convenient and inconvenient timing.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what you think about Head 6, whether she is a creation of his own mind or whether she is a chip planted by the Cylons, she has gone on record with Baltar saying they don't know I'm here or that I'm not in direct contact with them. So this is what I mean, because the timing of Head 6 stuff and real world stuff makes a lot less sense when you realize they can't be coordinating. At least so far as the show is presenting it and as it is understood. Because either she's 100% in his head, in which case she can't coordinate with shit, or she is implanted by the Cylons, in which case she said she couldn't coordinate, and the reasons she gave were pretty valid because the Cylons were doing stuff that risked getting him killed. And it also begs the question, like, okay, what was this meant to accomplish? Because it could only have accomplished one of two things. There is what we're about to talk about in a minute, which basically amounts to upping Baltar's
public persona.
Yes, like this idea that he's the one person. Like, we'll get into this in more detail in a minute, but I'm on a roll. Let me go off.
Go on, you go. I'm going to go.
There's got to be this whole thing where it's basically like, oh, well, he's someone that we all know we can trust as an Cylon because he was specifically investigated, and the Cylons were in fact trying to frame him, so it's going to instill more trust in him. Here's the thing, though. If the intent was to actually frame him, they do a piss poor job at it, because as Gaeta said, once he rechecked after the image had resolved and finished enhancing, that it was almost too easy and it was almost like she was being caught. But here's the thing. He didn't pick up on any of that during the initial security check. He even said, we verified that this is authentic. So if the idea is what actually happened, if that's what the Cylons wanted, they are banking so much on the idea of this one fucking guy going, let me double check after we already have the results. And that is a big thing to hinge your plans on, because if the Cylons want him alive, if Gata didn't do that or did it too late, Baltar would already be fucking dead. Which opens up the possibility in my head, as I say this, of Gata being a Cylon, because if he's being activated to ensure that he does what he's supposed to do, that would cover the bases, because otherwise we have a classic issue that I have with puppet master villains, which is, no, you can't control for that.
Mm-hmm.
Too many things that you can't control are going your way, and I don't buy it.
So I will offer up 2 other things just to think about,
Okay.
without going too far. And I will not say they are right or wrong, but I will offer them up. One, what's to say that the Cylons didn't think of this as a kind of the tie thing, heads we win, tails we win sort of situation? It's like heads, they kill Baltar and get rid of the potential Cylon detector stuff. And we don't have to worry about like him being a smart guy doing or even like looking into any of this stuff. Or tails we win, and he gets ahead in the public's eye. We can still use him later. So that's a possibility I would say to consider.
I don't buy that, just because the two, if they don't want him to have the Cylon detector, then having him be more manipulatable but allowing him to have that just seems like these goals are too contradictory. I don't buy it as a Xanatos gambit. It's too messy.
Okay. Well, and then the other option that I just want to poke at you is that you're missing the one in front of your face, and who's to say there is the God option? I'm just saying it's the one the episode puts in front of you.
It is the one the episode puts in front of me. It is the one that I am currently rejecting out of hand, simply because I don't think that's the kind of show this is. Now, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. The impression that I have for what the show is that the Cylons are being used to illustrate a form of religious-based extremism, motivated genocide, other things. Again, post 9/11 show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The idea of God being an actual active component in all this is one that I am not going to be factoring in to my calculations, barring like some actual tangible evidence. And here's why. The answer, God is real, is about the least interesting one that could be offered. Because then you're no longer dealing with opposing ideologies or opposing ways of viewing the world. You're just dealing with Sky Dad moving the pieces on the chessboard as he plays against himself. And I really don't care if that's what's going. If that's why I'm kind of rejecting that notion, because if that's what's going on, I super don't care.
I'm not saying anything anyway.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, we move on to the rest of the episode, or actually the final scene of the episode. Oh, sorry. There's one quick interstitial here. Going off from this, we cut to the CIC, and Adama wants to get Shelley Godfrey, but he learns that the 2 Marines that were tailing her lost her, and he's like, she was here, she was right here, she was a woman who existed, she didn't just vanish. And he looks down and her glasses are still on the table. So we know for a fact she was physically there.
Which, like, it's weird to me they felt the need to confirm that, because, like, how else were they going to cover that? Suggest that she was literally a mass hallucination? That's pushing it just a tad.
Mm-hmm. Well, then we cut to President Roslin publicly exonerating Baltar. Interesting that this is public as well. Like, he is putting forth a face and like, she says, I recognize you as a scientist, leader, a friend. And it's not a private thing between the two of them after the last scene. So just an interesting note.
That is slightly odd to me, especially given that were the accusations publicly known?
Yeah, because people were talking about it.
Yeah, on Galactica, where the accusations happened.
Mm-hmm.
But
I guess publicly, yeah.
Roslin is making an announcement to like the whole fleet. That's where I understand that word was going around on Galactica because like they saw him get arrested and it caused a hubbub on that ship. But it kind of circles back to that whole, we've heard rumors thing. It's like whatever the show wants, word just gets out to fucking everywhere immediately.
Yeah, interesting. Because that is, I didn't even think about that part of it. But yeah, the rumor mill on this Galactica is real strong. It's real good.
I know the speed at which this shit gets all over the fleet when they don't even have Twitter. Like, how are they managing?
Probably for the best. Baltar would want to buy Twitter and control it.
I don't disagree.
Relabel it Baltar X or whatever.
But, given the way that information is passed, that it requires somebody getting on an analog phone and telling somebody else, the idea that it was so far spread around the entire fleet that she had to make a public announcement did make me go like, wait, what?
Well, we do cut to him in his mind palace. And this is where we get that option where, he seems, Six says you're a hero. Head Six says you're a hero, more popular and powerful than ever, trial by fire. So now they truly believe in you. And he sort of goes was that the point of this? And to get up my appearance in front of everybody. And she sort of shushes him, saying, "I'm not gonna tell." And so he says, "Who am I to question the plans of Almighty God? But just one small practical question. Shelley Godfrey. Was there ever a woman called Shelley Godfrey? Was she ever here?" But Six says, just takes off her clothes in response. And he says, "God's will be done." So he doesn't question it.
Oh, no. He says God's will be done. She takes her clothes off, says nothing, goes up into his bedroom, and he reaches down to start unbuckling his pants and goes, "God's will be done." Like a freaking schoolboy.
Yeah.
This goddamn dipshit.
So anything to say about any of that?
No.
Alrighty then. Well, with that said, it's time for spoiler minute and my Severance thoughts. So I have one quick note on oh man, wait, let me just get my head in order here. I'm going to be doing spoilers for the next minute or so. Please, sorry, my brain's off because I'm trying to remember everything I have to say. For the next 60 seconds, I am going to be doing spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers for yourself, you can jump ahead 60 seconds just like Vera is going to do right now. And I am not going to spoil Severance, but I'm going to give thoughts on what Vera will think about Severance Season 2. All right, Vera, give me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
All right, just to get this out of the way really, really, really quick. It is interesting to me that Vera doesn't think that God's an option. I am going to be tracking this because I agree with Vera that it's just being Sky Dad in the sky, manipulating stuff is less interesting. However, I do think the show kind of makes the distinction between it's not the Christian Catholic sky God. It's like something that is labeled God that's much more like eldritch horror-y kind of thing. Not necessarily as horror, but more eldritch. So curious about that. We'll be tracking that, see if that's how the show goes. We'll find out. Second thing to say, her thoughts on Severance Season 2. I think she is going to like Severance Season 2, however, not like it as much as Season 1. And this is not spoiling, but because the show gets way more plot heavy and way more emphasizes the importance of specific characters more. And Vera is someone who hates characters being overly specifically important, just like ground level people, as do I, like Star Wars Andor level. Severance kind of ups the ante on that a little bit with some characters and is a little bit more plot focused rather than like what the themes of the show are. So I think she will like Severance Season 2, but not as much. All right. What did you think of the episode overall, Vera?
It's a little messy. There's good parts. Seeing Baltar panic and just seeing how bad he is at keeping his head in a crisis was quite enjoyable. I liked that a lot. It just confirmed a lot of the feelings I already had about the guy. And that was vindicating. So I liked all of that pretty well. Most of what else is here, I have varying degrees of problems with. The God stuff I don't find fully uninteresting, but like as I said, like the nature of Head Six versus the Cylons, how much the Cylons that aren't Head Six, assuming she even is real, actually have plans for Baltar, whether Baltar's even still supposed to be alive, because in theory he should have died on Caprica. Like, what they know about and they have interested in him, I have a feeling down the line, and I could be wrong, but I have a feeling down the line it's going to end up being one of those things that doesn't make sense, where like the way they react to and act around Baltar, once I actually know what is going on, is going to leave a lot of holes and be like, well, you did all this other shit that was contradictory to your goals. Because right now it feels like so much stuff is happening that these would not accomplish the same thing. In fact, these would accomplish completely contradictory things. What the fuck are you doing?
Hmm.
And I'm not completely ruling out the possibility that it pulls together. But given my many years' experience watching long-form storytelling, I am expecting it to not hold up on reflection.
Yeah, fair. Well, we will see. I'll say there's because this isn't necessarily spoilers. There is a movie that we are going to watch at the very end of all of this. Not the last thing, because I need to look at the order, but after the show is over, there's a movie called The Plan, which kind of reveals the Cylon side of things on all of seasons, like this stuff up until a certain point in the series that I won't spoil. I'd be curious to rewatch that movie after this part of it, because we were watching it at the end, but I may watch it before then just to be like, oh, interesting. So, yeah. So, just that's not a spoiler. It's one of those things like you can see it on Amazon as it comes up. So,
you know what I'd really like?
Mm-hmm.
I would love a series from the perspective of like the Illuminati or one of these supposedly all-powerful organizations that is just them scrambling like mad to make it look like they know what they're doing.
Oh, there was a show like that, and it was actually really good. It was on Netflix. It was an animated show. Inside Job.
Inside Job.
Yeah, which I liked. It was kind of that same thing.
That was kind of close, but it got a little. It went a little too far down its rabbit hole of like, oh, here's this wacky sci-fi shit we're doing. But it did have some of that. Like, no, I want something to properly zoom in on that, where it's not just a matter of the people who really control the world are idiots. Like, yes, Inside Job did that. No, I want to watch them trying to scramble to make it look like they know what they're doing. Like, the entire point of the show is basically Illuminati PR and trying to thread the needle for all this stuff that they don't have control over, but making it look like they do.
Cabin in the Woods kind of has a similar vibe to that too for horror stuff, but yeah, it's a similar idea. Yeah. Basically, on Cabin in the Woods with Illuminati
sucks, but
yeah. But it's basically Cabin in the Woods but Illuminati is kind of the pitch there. Yeah. Which would be fun. I think that's a great idea.
I kind of want that because like that's the thing I never buy with these like puppet master villains. Mm-hmm. It's like there is too much going on that you cannot control for. Mm-hmm. And if you're telling me you do control it, I don't believe you. So this is part of why I really loved the Penguin in Gotham in that show. Because especially the first season, I'm like, I don't know how much of this is you planning or how much of this is you improvising really well. And by the time the show's done, you realize, no, he does plan, but it almost never goes to plan, and then he has to trying to improvise to make it look like he had planned it. Mm-hmm. And like, I love watching that. Rather than getting the hero's perspective of like, oh, he's thinking 5 steps ahead, watching the guy scramble like mad to remain even half a step ahead. I fucking love that.
Yep. I agree. I'm just giving my thoughts on the episode. I really, really like it. This is an episode that's somewhat hard to talk about without spoilers, so it's one of those.
I would imagine.
Yeah. What I will say is that like this episode was one I was really looking forward to in our rewatch, just because I remember when I first watched the episode, I was like, oh look, he's like Six is outside, and it's like I remember there being this like interesting thing in my head of the dynamic of like, oh, he knows she's a Cylon, but he can't say it for certain reasons. But that's not what the episode ended up being. So I'm like, oh, I wonder why I had that weird impression of like that tension. So like there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah, this isn't that. And I will say a lot of the stuff that I like Baltar's characterization is still good, but it does go down this is one of those episodes like, oh, I remember it being better than it was. And this is like kind of the first one that's like that. Like Bastille Day also probably was like not as good in my memory, but it's still like held up as a strong episode. Whereas this one is the one I feel like this is a much weaker episode than I remember it being.
I mean, like it easily could have been, I know she's a Cylon, but I can't say it, but it just isn't.
Because that would require the tension of like he would if he said she's a Cylon, it would have had to reveal that he was seeing her and would have let her into the mainframe in reality. Like that, like if that would have been what the tension would have had to hinge upon. Like, does he reveal that he knew her back on Caprica or not? Which he doesn't, which is not very really attention in this version of the episode.
Yeah. So like, and I'm not even saying the story would have been better if it had done that, but like, I did wonder early on, are they going to do that? No, and they just don't.
No, but yeah, I for some reason in my brain, that was the tension that this episode relied upon. So I do wonder if there's like an expectation disappointment on my end. I do think this is a weaker episode just generally, but I'm like, that, you know, I can't really judge an episode that doesn't exist versus the one that does. But like that I feel like that one would have been a more interesting tension. But again, that might just be me in my head making up an episode.
Damn it, Ronald D. Moore. The non-existent version of this episode in my head is so much better.
I know, exactly. It's one of those things. You can't judge a show based on the thing that you have in your head about it. But that, regardless of that, I still think this is a weaker episode than I recall it being. So, which is, it's not terrible, but it's not as strong. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on this episode. That's Vera's thoughts on this episode. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
Alrighty, stuff time.
Stuff. You can find my stuff by looking for Council of Geeks. Patreon pays the bills. New videos every Saturday, as well as reviews of new Doctor Who episodes, which will be out either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on how behind the 8-ball I am on everything else that I'm trying to get done. This is going to be a real breakneck couple months for me.
Believe me, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and over on the Break Room of Geeks, by the time this comes out, I think Daredevil Born Again will either just be about to end or will have just ended, but I will also be reviewing Andor, and I'll be reviewing The Last of Us when that comes out, as well as whatever else I have watched, read, listened to, or played lately. And you can also find Council of Geeks on Blue Sky. It's basically the only social media that I'm really still doing under the label of Council of Geeks. And that is the geeky stuff. If you prefer the spicy stuff,
then you just need to look for Vera Wilde. Wilde is spelled W-Y-L-D-E. And you can find content on YouTube.
You do.
And if you are interested in my novel, look for Dreams of Fire. It does have Nathaniel Wayne listed as the author. Don't sweat it. I don't consider it a dead name, even though I don't really use it anymore. And that is available in print, ebook, and audiobook. And as far as print editions go, there is an illustrated edition, and the hardcover has color illustrations.
Ooh, fancy. Well, you can find my stuff at Jesse Gender on YouTube. I have video essay style stuff, including, now it's late by the time you're listening to this, but an impromptu video I did recently about how Trump's tariffs make perfect sense if you realize they're fascist. It's great.
And I love that you left in all my asides.
Yeah, it was very fun. It was very, very fun. I enjoyed that. Your Trump impression was the joy of making that video. Made it all worth it. Anyways, you can also find my secondary channel, Jesse Ginger After Dark, where I am reviewing a lot of the same shows as Vera, Doctor Who, Last of Us, Star Wars Andor. Still figuring out how I want to do Star Wars Andor. I might end up because I really want to dive deep into Star Wars Andor, and I'm just busy as all hell already. And they're releasing them. If they were releasing one episode a week, I would have been fine. But 3 a week is a lot, so I might end up just doing one big long review at the end, even though I love that show. But I just want to do it justice, and between all busy, I'll figure it out. But anyways, be on the lookout over there for that stuff. I also am on Blue Sky. That is the only social media that I really use. And then I am also on Nebula, which is the streaming service that houses my Webby honoree film, Identities. So you can check that out over there. And if you want to support me paying my bills month to month, you can support me over on Patreon. We get your name in videos, extra videos, and stuff like that. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
Alrighty, with that said, I hope y'all live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.